This is the ultimate dad verse to me in Hebrews. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. As a young boy, I would run around outside. What inevitably happens? We did this thing when we were younger where we ran around outside and we played outside. I know that's not like a thing anymore, but like we did this thing where we ran around and we played in dirt. And we blew things up and we did those sort of things. So when we go outside, what would happen as a boy, every time you go outside and you ride your bike, you play in the dirt, you do things, what inevitably happens? Scrape, injury, especially when you have siblings. I didn't mean to push you. So you come inside, what happens when you're 5 years old? That scrape is the end of the world. You see this red liquidy stuff pouring out of your flesh. This is blood, I'm dying. So you run to your mom, you run to your dad, and it is destroying your day. And what does my father do? Probably what some of your parents did. It's a long ways from your heart, son. Thank you for your sympathy and empathy, Dad. Clearly, this is a disaster and my life is going down the toilet before our eyes. It's a long ways for your heart. Obviously, I didn't talk like that when I was 5, but you get the point. He put a Band-Aid on it. If I would go on to moan, what would he say? Would he develop empathy? Would he reach down into the depths of his soul and his heart and find that sympathy that I so craved as a 5-year-old boy with blood running down my leg? No, he'd say, well, let's go to the kitchen and find a knife and just cut your leg off then. If it's that bad. Now, how many of you have seen a grown man do that? How many of you have seen a grown man scrape themselves, run inside to mommy and daddy and get a Band-Aid put on? Maybe they ran to a safe room. That's another story. But like, what if you had this scenario where you had a grown man that would like run in and look, mom, and then there's just a little drip of blood hanging out. Like, what? Do you see that? Why don't you see that? Because that man at some point was a 5-year-old boy that got to scrape and learn how to endure and build perseverance when he was younger. And he doesn't cry over a scrape anymore. Because probably since then, he's broken a few bones, ended up in the emergency room, had a few surgeries, and has went through more trying things. So it develops you. And so now as a man, when you cut yourself, scrape yourself, hit yourself with the tool, and then you move on. You don't go running and crying to mommy and daddy anymore. And that's because you've matured, you've developed, you've grown. And that's what trials do to us. There was a day when the smallest of things would detract us and throw us off. And that's when we were spiritual children. But then we grow up. We get tested. We grow more mature. We grow tougher. And now all of a sudden we can endure harder things. And we can take them in stride because we have been developed and we have persevered. And so to me this is the ultimate dad verse. In your struggle against sin, you have not resisted to the point of shedding them. In other words, you're still alive. What are you complaining about? You're still alive. And even if you died, to be present from your body is to be absent from body is to be present with the Lord. So you still win.